one person saying that they'd like a copy of the session because they were unable to make it. Okay, case study then on Reach. So Reach are one of the biggest publishers in the UK, and they ran the largest survey in the UK last year. So what can we learn from that? And then, as I said, some top tips and best practice. So ensuring your engagement maximizes the leads or potential new customers you generate. And finally, then we conclude and a chance to register for the next session. Okay, so James, over to you.
Hi, so a few weeks ago, we asked our audience, including possibly a couple of you guys, what are the biggest challenges facing you in 2021? Steve, if you could flick the slide on. Yeah. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of different responses, and I think you both sort of mentioned a few of them already, actually. You know, resource versus growth budget, getting new customers, client acquisition, engaging new customers, reaching prospects. So the key theme we saw was that businesses of all sizes were concerned about how to engage with potential customers and how to turn them into leads and paying customers. I think this is an issue that's probably echoed by all organizations that want to grow, and it's been particularly difficult during the pandemic, where we've all had to adjust to sort of the online world. It's a real challenge. So during the webinar, we're going to discuss one technique in particular that we use alongside numerous other businesses to real success, and that when done effectively will hopefully fulfill all of the above. And on a side note, it's exactly how we got you here today.
Yeah.
So Steve, if you want to flick the slide on. So as an organization, so the technique is asking your audience questions. And as an organization that is built around engagement and surveying, it's probably not surprising that this is what we do to continue our own growth. So really quickly, I'm going to run you through the key benefits of asking questions. And then I'm going to show you some case studies as examples of how this can be used really effectively in the real world. So asking questions turns outreach into engagement, whether it's email, blog article, or social media posts, however you are currently engaging with your audience, your users. Asking questions adds a really interactive element. It creates that back and forth channel of communication, which is really powerful, turning passive visitors sort of into active engagers. Not only that, but all the information that you collect can help you understand your customers and segment them. This can be used in the future for targeted outreach, and targeted outreach dramatically improves conversion rates. So rather than sort of spreading the net wide with all your variety of customers, you can segment your list down using the information that you've got to be much more specific in how you address them. So, I mean, with doopoll as an example, we have users that survey their customers, and we have users that survey their employees. Now, we don't want to send the same emails out or treat them in the exact same way because they have different problems that we're solving. So asking questions is also great at helping write really good content and copy. We often use the voice of our customers for the subject lines of our emails. There's nothing more powerful than using that there, because these are the people who have the real problem. So finally, it's a great opportunity to ask for an email. After answering a question, people feel invested, part of something, and in our experience, much more likely to leave you their contact information. And so that's it for the introduction. Over to you, Steve.
Cool. So yeah, asking questions, what a surprise. But it works, it really does work. And so we want to kind of give you some examples. So first up, with the Ospreys, other regional rugby teams are available. And in fact, we engaged with all of them for a campaign called Ultimate 15. So this was, for the regions, it was panic stations when the lockdown kicked in. Because there was no rugby. The thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that were packing into Parker Scarlets and the Liberty or the Rodney Parade or the Arms Park were no more. And so they wanted a way to engage with their existing fans that was fun, lighthearted, but equally could pick up some new fans, or not new fans, but uncovered fans. So people who have been Ospreys supporters all along, but maybe haven't been along to the Liberty or haven't gone to the Arms Park. Or, you know, in your cases, you know, want to get more engaged in politics or want to, you know, learn Welsh and find out more about that. So it's been something that's bubbling under the surface, but hasn't really kind of gone out. And in something that I guess goes against the norm here, touching on what we mentioned earlier, we managed to persuade all 4 regions to do this in tandem. So at the same time, we ran basically a campaign that went out across Twitter. And for 3 weeks running, they asked at 10 a.m. in the morning, who is your favorite player that's played for us in this position? And then they would provide a shortlist. And through doopoll, the people could vote for their favorite player. Super simple, a single question each day. And then it was followed by, want to hear more from the Ospreys? Pop your email in the box below. So it genuinely couldn't be easier. It's like, pick your favorite out of these 5. I think that some of them then put, you know, did we miss someone? Let us know. But it wasn't any more complicated than that. And the beauty of this is about doing stuff repeatedly. So it was a 3-stage process. And I'm just going to give you an example for one of the positions. So here's the tweet from the Ospreys. Kicking off the week, and it's time for the wings. Who'd be the ultimate left wing in your Ospreys team? So then you've got the contenders, the 4 contenders there, and then the chance to click the link and vote. And if you click that link, you just go straight in, one more click, submit your answer, and you're entering your email. They then gave a breakdown, so it was like a Twitter thread. So you'd start with that, and then a breakdown of each player. So here's the breakdown for some guy called Shane Williams. And then it would go on to reveal the winner. And surprise, surprise, for the Ospreys, Shane got 93% of the votes, and they went forward from there. So it's like, stay tuned for the next vote, and that would have been the next player in the team. So 15 days of voting, and I think on the last Saturday they did a pick your captain. In the course of that, across the 4 regions, we had over 100,000 people take part in that survey, or in those surveys, sorry. So when you think that the average home crowd for most of the regions is about 6,000, it's mental, yeah. So like the numbers, it shows that there's this audience out there, but they're untapped, or maybe they're just not as committed to actually go to games. So we gathered over 1,370 new emails for the Ospreys, and then we had over 1 million impressions on Twitter alone. And then the BBC got hold of this, and they held like a special kind of Sports Saturday section where they wanted to pick the best team of all of the regions, so the best of the best. So want to kind of get you involved here on your mobiles. I want you to scan the code or enter the email. Enter the web address. Almost everybody does the scanning now, though. It's I think I was saying to a client the other day, you know, doopoll we were doing QR codes back in 2016, and everybody was like, "Oh God."
It's the one thing it's made a massive comeback, hasn't it?
Well, as soon as anyone has to pay for their beer, or order their beer through it, then it becomes much easier. Okay, and so hopefully we're all in. So I'm asking you to have a guess. We gathered 1,370 emails for the Ospreys. So I want you to think how many of those had previously bought a ticket, given that the only place this went out was on Twitter. So they were putting it out on Twitter to all their followers on Twitter. How many of them had previously bought a ticket? So are they diehard fans? And so like 100% of them might have, or maybe was it a bit less? And then also, how many of the people that voted were already on the Ospreys database? So,
sorry, I've missed the QR code. Can you just give me the event code, please?
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, diolch.
Croeso, udriflig.do.vote a wedyn e-aca.
Yeah, got it.
Brill. Diolch, Larry.
Diolch.
don't worry, it doesn't have to be, precise here. We're not going to judge you. 2 responses. I'll just wait on that final response. I think, James, did you vote as well? Yeah. Cool. Okay. And there we go. Okay. So we think that half had bought a ticket previously, and over half were already on the Ospreys database. So let's go back and have a look. Sorry. So here's the stats. So only 34% had actually bought a ticket previously. So 2/3, 66%, 913 of the contacts, and this is from the Ospreys kind of database, were people that had never bought a ticket before. People that were completely new to the database, so half of the people that answered were new to their database. So for all of the work that the Ospreys have done over the last 15 years, we ran a 3-week campaign and managed to get them 686 contacts that they didn't have. And I think that's so powerful. And it was, it's not like it was a heavy, really dry, long, lengthy. It was a tweet every morning for 3 weeks. So I think it shows the power of what you're able to achieve with a simple survey, be that through doopoll or anything else. Okay. Next up, James.
So yeah, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how Amplitude use Typeform to gain new leads and convert them into customers. A little bit of a shorter sort of case study here, but quite a powerful one. So I'm going to flip this slide on, Steve.
Yep.
So a little bit about Amplitude. This is a company that's all about product analytics, particularly for digital products. It helps its audience and its users to understand their customers and espouses the sort of values of product-led growth. And in this case study, we're going to look at how they use Typeform, which is, as Steve said before, one of our competitors. It's another survey tool similar to doopoll, which could, in this instance, probably be used interchangeably. If you want to flip the slide on for me, Steve. So Amplitude's audience is made up of people who want to grow their product and understand their users online. So they posed them a challenge in the form of a question. And that question was, how well do you know your users? This was posted to social media, it was posted on their blogs, and it was sent out in email. So omni-channel across sort of every form of their engagement. Following this question, they conducted a survey, which was a series of questions that dug deeper into the knowledge of their respondents on the topic of their users and product-led growth. So it was designed to appeal to people as both a challenge, but also they offered a clear and valuable reward in the form of a free set of tools. This was just written content that they produced themselves based on their domain expertise. And the idea was to help their audience improve their understanding of product-led growth through this toolkit. So this incentivized respondents to ensure they gave an email. So it's another tool that you can use as part of your sort of outreach and asking questions. We've got something for you in return. They were then able to segment their respondents based on the results and send a targeted toolkit based on the level of understanding that each individual respondent had. That made the toolkit more powerful because it was very much catered to your own experience. They were also then able to upload all this information to their CRM, their content management system, and were able to utilize it for further outreach. So then, as we were discussing at the start, when they went out to send emails in the future, they knew where each respondent was at in their journey and their understanding of this particular product. So this made it really powerful, and it dramatically improved their conversion rates. So to summarize, Amplitude grew their network of potential leads, and they used that information they had to flesh out their customer profiles, giving them the option to create targeted email lists, which were much more likely to convert. Over to you, Steve.
Cool. Just before I go on, Ileri, there's a screaming parallel here, obviously, for are you a beginner? Are you competent? Are you fluent? At which level are you at? And so you get those answers, then you're able to tailor your content.
Yeah.
So whether it's a bilingual email to beginners or
Yeah.
a kind of
Yeah.
rich email to fluent speakers, super simple to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And it avoids that kind of one size fits all.
Yeah, that's where that's what I feel at the moment. Oh, apologies. It's just that it tends to be, we need to try and break down the levels of everybody, really, what they're in, just to get that engagement in the first place, especially new learners. That's what we want.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, Reach. So the largest survey in the UK in 2020. So let's have a look at this case study. So Reach, I think I might have mentioned already, but Reach are the owners of the Daily Express, the Daily Mirror, the Daily Star, Wales Online, Birmingham Live, Cornwall Live, about 100 different publications in total. But the Mirror and the Express are their big kind of profile publications. So they previously had success with Manchester Evening News. Manchester Evening News 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, had run something called the Big Manchester Survey. And they'd managed to get about 20,000 people to take part over the course of about 3 or 4 months. So they put out this insanely big survey that was asking about everything from schools and education to public services and bin collections and whatever else. So somebody within Reach thought actually we could replicate this, but on a national basis. So and we could do it for the lockdown. So the aim was to kind of do this real deep dive survey. We were aiming to get about 200,000 people to answer it. And ideally for them, as part of their priority for 2021, they want to gather 7 million new email registered GDPR compliant emails by the end of 2021. And one of the ways they're looking to do this is by embedding surveys or questionnaires into their copy. So the approach here, as I say, was a lengthy survey around the challenges of lockdown and appealing to the greater good. So this wasn't in exchange for a toolkit or the chance to win a hamper. It was very much like, be part of history. This is your chance to make your voice heard. It matters that you take part in this survey. We need to know the pulse of the nation, that kind of vernacular. And it's really effective. I will say it got front page as well. So front page being on their websites, obviously you can't embed surveys within newspapers. Okay, so the process was the surveys were embedded prominently on 42 publications all over the UK, from Liverpool to Birmingham, Cornwall to Scotland. And there were over 400,000 people took part. So they were aiming for 200,000. We got 402,576 or something similar. And I should add, sorry, and this was run through doopoll. So last year, doopoll ran the largest survey in the UK. And yeah, so 402 people, they answered 40 questions, or most of them answered 40 questions, which meant that in total we got over 20 million answers, 20 million responses, opinions from people in the UK. So it's such a good way of getting, a huge amount of data, a huge amount of understanding. So I have another question for you. 400,000 people answering 40 questions. I think if you look at your phone, it's probably there. Actually, the question might be there, or you might have an alert at the top of your screen. And the question we're asking is, what proportion of the 400,000 responses answered all 40 questions, and then also answered their email when we're asked at the end of the survey?
You've got to be fully committed to complete that survey, haven't you?
I mean, they weren't yes, no's, and it was a real mixture of stuff. And they asked people to enter text as well. We'll come on to that shortly. But what proportion do you reckon? We'll let Ellen and Aleri answer first, James, if that's okay.
Oops. I'm already.
Oh, you're in already. Okay, no worries. Okay, 22%. So you think 22%? It was actually a bit less. We got 45,000 emails So I think that comes in at about 12%. But honestly, it's an insanely high conversion rate. So they in the past were used to 1 or 2, and for something of that magnitude. So to get 45,000 emails in 4.5 days is crazy going. Yeah. Just quick numbers on this. We ran it for 4.5 days. In January of 2020, our average response rate was 1 or 2 responses a minute across our entire platform. We then started working with Reach for the 6 nations, England versus Wales. It went up to 1,000 responses a minute. And at the peak for this Great Big Lockdown survey, we had 20,000 people a minute answering on an embedded doopoll, which is why James looks like he's about 50 and actually he's only 18. So that was a pretty savage experience. Okay, oops. Let's just go back. Okay, we're doing well on time, I think. So top tips and best practice for ensuring your engagement maximizes leads generated. I can see some of you have been taking some notes already, and hopefully some kind of sparks of inspiration have gone off, but we thought we'd distill it down into some real kind of easy takeaways for you. So we're going to run through this series, and James, you're going to kick us off.
Yeah, so during our time at doopoll, we've learned a lot about surveys and how to best structure them for maximizing your engagement. It's all very well getting them out there, but we want to make sure you get the best results. So we wanted to finish with a few tips for getting the most out of any engagement you do in the future. To begin with, the first question that you asked is the key to maximizing your engagement. It's the time when people decide whether they will or won't interact with whatever content you've put out there. So not only should it be something that grabs people's attention, the type of question matters too. Our research has found that a simple yes or no question is kind of the best way to start a survey. Using this type of question reduces the drop-off between question 1 and question 2. As you'll see on the graph, an open text question has 3 times more people leaving the survey after answering it than the simple yes or no. So an open text question is kind of the worst to start with. And an example for what not to do is the typical start of asking for a name or an email. You see this kind of everywhere with the survey. And we suggest avoiding this until a little bit later on, as you're more likely to sort of put people off from engaging. I think start with something simple, easy to click. After that first question, people are more invested and more likely to go for more complex answers, and they're more likely to continue on to the end.
That's cool. I'll go on to the next one. I just want to add a little kind of asterisk to that, is those 3 times more that don't answer the open text question. It's not just that they don't answer that question, they don't answer any of them. Yeah, so it's all of your questions aren't answered, not just the first one. And so you want to make sure on that first question you convert as many as you can, because they're the ones that at least have a chance of answering the others. Okay, staying with the first question, and this is around doopoll, our experience with doopoll, but I think it would stand true with other platforms as well, is don't add an image. So sometimes people think, I want to be on brand, I want to push stuff out there. That first impact is to be as clean as possible and put as few hurdles in the way. The other thing would be to have an introduction. So we see loads of survey providers that offer this capacity, and we have as well. And then somebody puts in War and Peace as an introduction. And you've got to read for 20 minutes before you can click start survey. You know, you've already put that in the email that you've sent them, or you've already put it in the tweet that you've put out. So if you're saying, let us know your thoughts, let them let you know their thoughts. So let them get through to you. Yeah? Let them answer the question. So anything that obfuscates or takes away from that first question, ditch it. And sure, add it in later on, as James said. Once they're past the first question, they're invested, they're more likely to answer the others.
So survey length is an interesting one. Steve sort of touched on it with the Reach things, and we all know that 40 question length survey is definitely a task for people. And in general, you might think that the more questions there are, the less likely a respondent will finish that survey and leave you with an email. And that is partially true, but only after an average of 13 questions up to this point. the longer the survey, it's almost the better. We believe that the more time a person is invested, the more likely they are to carry on going, and the more likely they are to leave that contact information with you. So this doesn't work exponentially, don't do hundreds of questions, but up to that 13 question mark, it actually does get people more interested and more invested.
Yeah, so that looks a little like, for one question, it's, you know, a really high response rate, then it drops off and comes back up at 13, and then it drops off again. Yeah, so you 1 or 13. If you just want to do a quick light thing like the Ospreys did, single question, bang, give us your email, great. But then after that, some people kind of think, oh, 10, just because it's a round number. But we've discovered that 13 is actually the good number. Okay, multiple channels repeatedly, QR code. So people, we see this a lot. People will send out an email to all of their database saying, let us know your thoughts. And then that's it. And they're like, oh, we get so many people saying to us, Steve, we only got 10% of people, or 5% of people answered the survey that we sent out on email recently. And we're not an email marketing agency, so we don't kind of give massive advice on this. But once again, we look at the email they sent, and it's, a full page long, and then hyperlinked at the bottom is the link to the survey. And it says something like, please take 15 minutes to let us know your thoughts on what? No, I won't. So, once again, strip all that away. You don't need it. You're there, you've got a message, nice big button. I'd suggest something like, get involved or make your voice heard, that kind of thing. That doesn't mention the word survey, doesn't mention the word poll, and doesn't mention how long it's going to take them out of the remainder of their life to take part in this thing. But also use other channels. So it may be that you only want to hear from your customers. So then that makes sense. Yeah, you only send to an email out that goes. But sometimes you might want to just research in general, and you might want to know the public. So get it out on Twitter. A Twitter half-life, a tweet half-life nowadays is probably less than a minute, if that. Yeah. So don't be scared about putting things out on a repeated basis. An email approach we use with ISG, who are a big construction firm that are building the Interchange, the new building next to the BBC in central of Cardiff. They send out the first message, we need to know your thoughts, let us know what you think. Send out a second message to the people that hadn't clicked the link. Hey, just to remind you, we're closing this on Friday. And then a third message 24 hours before, this is your last chance. We've already had some great responses. Answer now or forever, hold your peace. You can do that too on Twitter, where you share the interim results. So we've got a great little screen, we can download the results. You could share, here's the scores at present. Do you agree? Vote now to make your voice heard. So yeah, we just encourage you to do things repeatedly, and we now have so many different ways that you can encourage people to participate, as do other platforms, to be fair. But it's don't be insular and blinkered. Try to get it out to as big an audience as you can. Okay.
Yep, simple one here. It's about not overloading your respondents. With questions, less is often more. And that's with the length of the question. We've talked a lot about having huge volumes of text to try to avoid that, but also with the number of options. So from our research, we found that the sort of good maximum limit of options is 5. More than that, and it provides almost too much stimulus there. There's too much to read through, and it can put people off. If you do have more than 5 options, just break them down into separate questions. It's quite a good way to sort of make it more accessible to people and get them carrying on clicking through your survey.
Cool. We see this a lot, especially with Welsh Government stuff. Which LEA are you based in? And that kind of thing isn't so bad. There's 27 answer options, I think.
Yeah.
And you can put them in alphabetical order, but sometimes it can just go on and on. And then also, I've given an example here on the left of, short answer options, So QR codes, embeds, social media, so easy to read. If your answer options are sentences, one of the things we see a lot of, how much do you agree with this statement? Yeah. So doopoll is a fantastic engagement platform for working with various clients, be them internal or external community. And it's really hard to kind of, the same thing that happens again though, all of this, 5 answers, short, snappy responses, fits on a mobile screen. So anyone answering on a mobile doesn't have to scroll up and down. They can give their answer and click submit. Okay. Segmented data. I hope we've banged this drum loud enough and long enough. Try where possible, and it is a bit more effort to do this, but try to create stuff that is right for the audience it's going to. And we can help with this. We don't mind kind of helping out in the work on doing this, but really you can ask questions, and it might be, where are you based? North Wales or South Wales? Okay, great, North Wales. Then you can start using your Ruans and Naute or whatever, so you're able to change your dialogue based on the type of person that you're approaching. And it might be, where are you based? What is your proficiency? I'm sorry to do you again here, Larry. And what are your passions or your hobbies? So then you could have, an email might only go to 20 people or 10 people, but it really means it's like, wow, these guys get me. I'm a learner that likes rugby, based in South Wales. So that's a message that resonates with me. Okay, James.
So just on that topic of segmenting the data, Steve, you mentioned that we can help out with this, and I think this is something that is available on a lot of different survey platforms, and it's automation. What that means is when you want to target or segment your data based your respondents based on your data, you obviously don't want to manually update your email list with all of the answers. So automation can use a variety of different products to update your mailing lists automatically based on the results that you get back. So we at doopoll provide an automation with something called Zapier, and basically every time you get a new response, it'll update whatever you connect it to, whether that's MailChimp, for example, with all the information that you've got from that respondent, and that allows you to create these segmented lists and these targeted campaigns. And that's really sort of that finishing flourish on this sort of thing to make it easier for you to do exactly what we've been talking about. So there's lots of different methods of doing this, and we use Zapier, and that's quite a popular one across different survey platforms.
And the example there on the left here is you can connect the doopoll to MailChimp, which means that when you get a new email on doopoll, it finds the existing subscriber and maybe updates that they answered a survey on this date, or it will create a new one. And so you kind of don't have to upload that CSV or whatever to the account. Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, ask us for help. So we appreciate that our product is predicated on being simple to use. And I would hope that, when you log into doopoll, my mum in Blaenau is the kind of test bed for anything new we release, and I send surveys or get her to create one, and I aim for it to be as easy as writing an email, and I think that's our kind of a rule of thumb, is it should be super simple. And we've made loads of updates recently that will help you. So everything is auto saved right now, so you don't lose stuff. But the customers that work with us most closely are the ones that seem to use us most too. And that's because I think it's a reassurance thing. So one of the most common questions we get is, can you have a look at this survey? And it's literally like, can you just tell me it's not shit? I just need to know that I can put this out into the world and it's going to be okay. So we can give you, obviously we've given you some tips here, but there's loads more that we've learned. And us reviewing a survey is totally simple for us to do. But yeah, just hit get help. It's in the left-hand bar, just under my account. Cool.
So yeah, in conclusion, we think that asking your audience questions is just a fantastic way to engage with them. It's a tried and tested method, not just by us, but by numerous other companies. and it really succeeds at growing your network of potential leads. And importantly, it makes those leads easier to convert into sales, ultimately making sure you've got more money in the bank.
And that's always good. So yeah, we hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, any questions or queries, we're happy to answer. We're running another one on Thursday, which is, Ellen, potentially, given what you said at the start, specifically of interest to you for running webinars, and how it can work for that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Could you send me a email about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just add you to the calendar.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. Right. Happy for you. Should I do that for you as well, Larry, or would we?
Yeah, I could forward it on to other members of staff then, just to see if there's something they'd consider. So
you'd
okay.
be able to add them on the calendar invite. So
okay. Yeah.
Cool. Any questions? Any queries? Any thoughts?
Oh, it's really useful because I'm just thinking we've got the Senate election coming up in May, and for example, we're trying to sell, we've got an election service that we're trying to promote, and we're trying to promote it to like bigger London agencies that basically have no idea what's going on with the Senate election. So they're quite hard to reach because, we send marketing emails and stuff, but I'm just thinking this could be a, better way of hooking them in and getting them involved in a little survey, making it fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's given me a lot of things to think about actually. So really useful deal.
Great.
Yeah. Great to hear.
Larry, anything for you?
No, I've found it really useful. We do use social media platforms, the Twitter and everything like that. We rely heavily on Facebook, but it's just touching those people to promote our brand. As we want to be the first point of contact, really, if somebody decides to take up the opportunity to learn Welsh, especially adult Welsh learning. So, it's something that we, like you said, to use different publications and things like that, invite people to see what they actually want and what they hope to get out of what we offer, really.
Great. That's cool. Nice one. So there we are. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thanks very much. Seeing you on Thursday, hopefully. Have a good day.
Lovely.
Diolch.